Okay, so here we are at Underground Passages, Exeter, Devon, production number 0023, scenes 1 to close, take 1, date 20th of the 1st 2011, production company Reynolds, directors Richard Spencer, cameraman Adam Reynolds, going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now that the thing goes through, a stone.
It's a good way to find it. I always find it quite hilarious that on a church, a Christian cathedral, there's a pentagram in the middle.
Oh yes. And right at the top there's a naked man.
Yeah,
More observation. Yes, wild things.
Oh, it's a mirror. Right, toilet. First one, underground toilet.
I think a few times as well. It was hard, but I loved it.
It is hard.
It was one of those things, like, it was almost like, even though I wasn't afraid of it, that's the kind of smell after coming from like
So are you excited, Melissa, about these underground tours?
Absolutely thrilled, well pleased.
The city centre, and beneath the feet of shoppers, lies an ancient system of narrow medieval passages which are unique in this country. There are many stories about Exeter's underground passages: buried treasure, escaping nuns and priests, even a ghost cyclist. But who built the passages, and why? The passage for the new city water supply was built of local heavy tree stone between 1492 and 1497. Built in stages, it eventually ran from just outside the city wall beneath the east gate, ending at St. Stephen's Church on the High Street. The water system was repaired and fresh spring water flowed again. By the end of the 17th century, Exeter was one of the biggest and richest cities in England. They all offer a fascinating insight into Exeter's history. These are the only medieval underground passages in Britain open to visitors. In a moment, put on your hard hat and discover their history and mystery for yourself.
I like to stand on this side of the passage, and the reason you like to,
What's underneath there?
it's just a water, so the water can come out, okay? So if you come up a bit closer to me, and then they can all come into the passage. So if you stay over that side, and the reason I ask you to stay that side is because we've got lights that side, so if you're standing against the lights, we can't see each other. Whereas if you're all over one side, we can now see each other. Now, where we're standing at the moment is the oldest part of the cathedral passages, and it was built in 1347, about 650 years ago. And as you know from the film, it was built to bring fresh water into the city. Now, in the Middle Ages, it was the days when people didn't have taps and sinks and all those things in their houses. They had to go out and fetch water in jugs. They didn't have toilets, didn't have anywhere to go. They used to just throw it out into the street. And so most people use the waters from the River Exe, and the two streams that run either side of Exeter, or they'd even catch rainwater. So you can imagine it was a much dirtier place and smellier place than it is now. But the water for this system came from the northeast of the city where our football ground is. I don't know if any of you are football fans.
St James's Park.
Yep, it's very close to St James's Park, where there were 5 wells. And the wells were there because it's an area made of porous sandstone where you could dig a well. It's a good place to dig a well. So the water came from that area, and it came in a little lead pipe about as big as my torch, very tiny, not like a big water pipe today. And the water pipe was buried in the ground, but when it got as far as the city, because the city of Exeter then was just within the city walls, when it got to the city, they decided to build these enormous passages to carry the water pipe, and that was so that men could get down and fix them when they were broken. This passage, which comes from just behind me and goes that way, if you look behind you, you can see where the passage turns down to the right towards the cathedral. This passage, as I said, was the first one that was built, and it was actually built by the guys that were building the cathedral, because they already had a water system of their own and they knew all about it, so they were experts. So they helped in the building of this passage. Now we're going to walk on a bit now.
Lovely.
Follow me when you're ready.
But that was park in there.
We're stopping here for a minute. Some of you might find you have to bend a bit. If you're little like me, you don't have to bend very much. Okay, I've stopped you here for a reason. It's because I wanted to explain that you're standing in the bottom of the defensive ditch of the city. Now, a defensive ditch is like a moat with no water. You know about castles with moats around them and things like that. Now, most places had defensive ditches, settlements and towns. And that's to stop the enemy getting in when you're at war. And Exeter had one built by the Normans, so built almost 1,000 years ago. When the pipe system was put in to start with, it ran along in the 18th century, that's 400 years after the passages were built, 250 years or so ago. In the 18th century, they wanted to fill the ditch in because they didn't need it anymore. People fought wars in different ways. They'd invented guns and things. And so what they did was build this little passage over the top of the pipe, and then the guys could still get down and fix it when it was broken. Now, for you tall people, just behind me, there's a very low pipe. You have to make sure you duck under it, don't bang your head, and you'll soon be able to stand up again. Okay?
Thank you. Oh, there's another one there, and one more here. Oh, that's the low one that we saw on the film.
That's the passage that people can go through if they want to. So if you come a little bit closer to me, and then everybody can get in, and then you can...
Come right down.
Like to shuffle along, folks, so the other guys can get in. Is everybody there? You're all through? I don't want anyone standing hunched over. If you like to come through and fill up, that's right. Where we're standing now we call East Gate Chamber, and the reason we call it that is because this piece of stone here behind you, that bit, that's all that's left of the East Gate, because at the East Gate, top of Sidwell Street, just outside, there was a great big Norman defensive gate. That's all that's left of it now, the underground bit. And it was taken down in 1784, and it was taken down when the city of Exeter became a very prosperous city, very wealthy, because of the wool trade. And that gate, by then, was 750 years old, so it was a really old thing. They didn't want it anymore, so they took it away. To the left of that, you can see a very interesting tall passage with lights in it. And when you look down there, you're looking under the High Street, all the way to the top of 4th Street and South Street, near where they have the farmers' market, near British Home Stores, near the Corn Exchange, that bit. Yeah. So that went all the way under the High Street to there, where they put another fountain, second fountain called the Great Conduit, and you saw a picture of the Great Conduit on the film. Yeah. And that fountain was very grand, because it was near to the main gate of the city. So if anyone important arrived, Exeter wanted to show off its lovely water system. Now that gate was, fountain was taken down about the same time as the East Gate. And that passage only goes as far as Castle Street now, sort of near Central Library. It doesn't go any further down the High Street because it was bombed in the Second World War, so it was very damaged, and it doesn't go any further. This little tiny passage is the one you can crawl through if you want to at the end of the tour. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. Now, it's a bit muddy at the bottom. It took a separate water system to a hospital, a medieval hospital, and in those days the hospitals weren't run by the NHS, they were run by the church. And so you had to go in and cleanse your soul first. So I guess they looked after you, body and soul. That was made at the beginning of the 19th century. There was always a bit of a problem with the water flow in these passages. And at the beginning of the 19th century, they got somebody called James Galsworthy in to try and improve things, and he dug the passages down so that the water would flow faster. And we think this bit would have held a water tank, perhaps a settling tank so that all the dirt in the water settles to the bottom and doesn't get sucked up when it went down to the wells, because of the fountains. The fountains are that way, and the wells are behind me that way. So we're going to come along to this little bit now, and I'll talk about this. Now, if you stand here, you can do some filming up above.
Lovely, thanks.
Quite interesting.
Oh, yes.
So where we're standing now is underneath the floor. We're standing under the floor of the guard's room, and the guard would have been protecting the East Gate. So this is located just outside the East Gate where the drawbridge meets the ground. And up that way is a little doorway. That's how the guard got in and out. Can you see a little pointy door up there?
Can indeed.
And over the other side is a gun port. That's where he might have used a cannon in those days, a small cannon. So this was used during the Civil War, and in the Civil War the passages were all blocked off. So people wouldn't have been able to get through the passages to get into the city. This was where the guard resided. A bit lower down, there's a big square stone with a hole in it. That was originally above ground. It was a pipe bridge, so it would have carried the pipe across the city ditch somewhere, perhaps. It's got some old initials. Somebody's been naughty and scratched their names on there. But we don't know who it is, and it could even be an early Victorian person exploring the passages. We actually don't know.
Well, it wasn't a group one, I think.
It's a bit of graffiti, isn't it? We don't know who the initials belong to.
Is it from the group, though? A group idea?
No. It'd be long, long time ago. We wouldn't allow people to do it now, would we?
No, it's one.
So somebody's been naughty a long time ago. Anyway, we're standing in the city passage. It's made of a red crumbly stone called heavy tree stone. See a lot of this in Exeter.
Do indeed.
And we're going on to the end of the passage now.
Thank you.
Because I'm going to send them off. If
That
you stand
way?
there,
Yeah.
no, you just wait there. I want you to lead. You keep going until you reach a dead end. You can't go any further, and we'll be behind you. So the rest of you follow on, and then you'll be at the front again. All right? That's why I've done this.
All right.
Right, you can follow on now.
Okay, great.
We're following you now.
No, I'm following you this time. But in a minute, I shall lead you out again.
Yeah?
Okay, now there's a very brave lady standing down there. You can see it's a dead end. It's not really an end, it's a dead beginning. Because This is where the pipes came into the passages, and where we've walked along beside the shops where Next is,
Yeah.
underneath the High Street,
Yeah.
under the Halifax Building Society and under Waterstone's bookshop to the top of Longbrook Street, behind the old Devon England building.
Could we tunnel into the Halifax, please?
You could try, couldn't you? I know everyone says that.